Good evening and welcome to Library Jam's Book Read. Tonight I'm going to share with you a book that I have been wanting to read but haven't had the time to read. It's called Russian Roulette by Michael Isikoff and David Korn. It is the inside story of Putin's war on America and the election of Donald Trump. What I've heard about this book that, even though it's nonfiction, that it reads like a spy novel. It's come highly recommended. I don't know if it's on the bestsellers list. I haven't had a chance to check that, but I'm going to read the introduction. Obviously, I can't read the whole thing. It's a pretty thick book, but I'm going to read the introduction and we'll see how it goes. It's a shakedown. Donald Trump was suspicious from the start. It was the afternoon of January 6, 2017, and for 2 hours, the president-elect had sat in a conference room at Trump Tower and listened to the leaders of the U.S. Intelligence Committee brief him on an extraordinary document. A report their agencies had produced concluding that the Russian government had mounted a massive covert influence campaign aimed at disrupting the country's political system and electing him as president of the United States. Trump had controlled his anger during this meeting, at times raising questions, expressing doubts, and clinging to the idea that it might all be a lie, part of some deep state plot to taint his defeat of Hillary Clinton the previous November and undermine his authority as president. When the spy chiefs, Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, CIA Director John Brennan, and National Security Agency Director Administrator Michael Rogers left the room, one of them stayed behind, FBI Director James Comey. He then handed Trump something else. It was a 2-page synopsis of a report prepared by a former British spy alleging that Trump and his campaign had actively collaborated with Moscow. The memos claimed that Russian intelligence had collected compromising material on Trump that could be used to blackmail him, including a tape of him engaging in sordid behavior with prostitutes in Moscow. The FBI was not giving him this information because it believed the report. Comey had explained that to Trump. In fact, the Bureau hadn't confirmed any of the lurid details, and Comey told him that he was not personally under investigation. But the material was circulating within the media and it might become public. The intelligence community, Comey said, merely wanted to provide him a heads up. When Comey left, Trump was incensed. It's bullshit, he told his aides. None of this was true. The discussion turned to why Comey had gone through this exercise. Suddenly, it all made sense to Trump. He knew exactly what this was. It's a shakedown, Trump exclaimed. They were blackmailing him. Comey, no doubt, with the approval of all the others, was trying to send a message to him. They had something on him. Trump had seen this sort of thing before. Certainly his old mentor, Rory Cohn, the notorious fixer for mobsters and crooked polls, knew how this worked. And so did Comey, the most famous predecessor of J. Edgar Hoover, who had quietly let it be known to politicians and celebrities that he possessed information that could destroy their careers in a New York minute. Now, as Trump saw it, Comey and the rest of them were trying to do this to him, but he was not about to let them. Trump's anger that day helped to set a tone for the most tumultuous presidencies in American history. For the first year in office would be filled with fits of rage at his political enemies, bizarre early morning tweet storms, and repeated denunciations of purveyors of fake news who challenged his honesty, his competency, and even his mental stability. Much of this turmoil related to the relentless investigations of Russian attacks on the 2016 election, a subject that infuriated Trump more than anything else. Russia became a rallying cry for his tormentors, the original sin of his presidency, a scandal that raised questions about both his legitimacy and the national vulnerability to covert information warfare. Yet Trump defiantly refused to acknowledge Russia's extensive assault as a real significant event. In his mind, any inquiry into the matter was nothing but an effort to destroy him. The Russia scandal, though dated back decades, for years Trump had pursued business deals in Russia, continuing to do so even though the first months of his presidential campaign. And this colored how he would engage with the autocratic, repressive, and dangerous Russian leader Vladimir Putin. The Trump Russia tale was rooted in the larger post Cold War geopolitical clash between the United States and Russia, a conflict that Moscow in 2016 shifted to cyber shadows to gain a strategic advantage. With Trump unable and unwilling to come to terms with Putin's war on American democracy, it fell to the government investigators and reporters to piece together the complete story, an endeavor that could take years to complete. This book is the first step towards that. No matter how Trump regarded the scandal, one thing was for certain. To prevent a future attack, the American public and its leaders had to know and face what occurred. A thorough accounting was a national necessity. Well, it's piqued my interest. The next chapter, the next part, chapter 1. Mr. Putin would like to meet you, Mr. Trump. I'm almost tempted to keep going, but we'd be here all night. It was a joy and a pleasure to read, and hopefully you'll get to Barnes & Noble or Amazon or wherever you get your books or the public library and check out Russian Roulette. Thanks for joining me on Library Jam.